Namaste. Today we are going to go ahead on Lukhnow Gharana. We saw brief introduction in the last class and some more details. As you know, in Kathak, each syllable is not designated merely to represent sounds of the feet and bells, but also to be in harmony with the strokes of the accompanying percussion instrument. During the performance, pieces of abstract dance may be recited before their execution, and the dancer may employ variation in intonation in order to sketch out in sound the approximate contours of the movements he or she will use. This paran or recitation is also a medium of communication with the percussionist, who must match stroke by syllables what the dancer recites. Furthermore, the paran enables the audience to visualize and appreciate the rhythmic patterns before they are revealed in dance movements. Different gharanas or the schools of dance do not only demonstrate general technical differences but significant stylistic preferences. For instance, the rival Jaipur style is said to emphasize the abstract rhythmic elements of dance far more than its expressive content, and to such ends places footwork prominently at the beginning of the performance. Nevertheless, so powerful has the influence of Lukhnow been that in the particular artistic dominance of Biju Maharaj and his family, that nowadays there is a great deal more homogeneity in Indian Kathak dance style than in former days. The Kathak Kendra in New Delhi, where Biju Maharaj was teaching, is a perennial hive of activity from which many of the new generations of dancers have been emerging for the past decades. Guru Munna Lal Shukla, a close relative of Biju Maharaj, also teaches Kathak at the Kathak Kendra. He has for some years been the subject of important new research into the Lukhnow school of Kathak by his Canadian student Dipti Gupta. Besides dancers of the Lukhnow tradition, the Kathak Kendra's policy has been to employ dancers of the Jaipur tradition as well. Of course, although Lukhnow has its own Kathak Kendra, where excellent dancers such as Kapila Raj, students of Lachu Maharaj, and Ram Mohan, son of Shambhu Maharaj, have taught in recent years, and a program in dance at the famous Bhatkande Music College under Professor Poonima Pandey. Kathak has become popular throughout India, especially North India and abroad. Although it is not possible to mention all the talented dancers of the modern era, some of the most notables are Sitara Devi, who has performed and who just passed away last year, who has performed in many films, Rohini Bhatteji, Kumudini Lakhya, Maya Rao, Uma Sharma, Rani Karna, Reena Singha, Chitresh Das, Joanna Das, Vijay Shankar, Shashwati Sen, arguably Birju Maharaj's most famous disciple, who danced in Satyajit Ray's celebrated film on Lukhnow. The chess player, Shatranj ke Khiladi, and Veronique Azad, a Delhi-based French dancer who also studied under Biju Maharaj. And these are the stalwarts of Kathak. Other students have taken Kathak far beyond India's borders. For instance, it's taught to the Peking Opera and any schools of Europe and North America. As with any living tradition, Kathak has always continued to evolve. Amad and Paramelu were not always part of the dance tradition, particularly in the pre-Muslim era. And the temple and the village square have given way to the court and theatre and different styles of dance presentation. Soloists still dominate the genre as always, but increasingly common are elaborately choreographed productions involving Kathak dance troupes. For instance, Krishnayan and Katha Raghunath Ki, presented in Delhi in 78 by Birju Maharaj, perhaps the most important of all. The themes on which dance items are based have evolved with the times, especially during the 70s and 80s. These include abstract ideas as well as topical issues such as different rhythms in nature and social. Talatmika, choreographed by Birju Maharaj in 1988, Life and Death, Udgar, choreographed by Rohini Bhatte in 87, and Physical and Mental Handicapped Setu, choreographed by Kumudini Lakhya in 1987. Although Bindadin had no male offspring, Kalka Prasad had 3 sons, who in turn became the dominant forces in Kathak during the early to mid 20th century. Achan Maharaj, Lachu Maharaj and Shambhu Maharaj. Achan Maharaj, though of a heavy and unwieldy build, was extremely gifted, and while performing transferred into a different person, the very model of agility and grace. He specialized in bhav, the expressional aspect of dance that deals with the depiction of characterization of mood. Achan Maharaj was responsible for the training of his younger brothers, and he also engaged to dance in several North Indian courts before being invited to teach in the Delhi School of Hindustani Music. Lachu Maharaj spent much of his life in Bombay creating and directing dance dramas and choreographing films. He was noted for bringing to Kathak a fragile elegance and beauty. His chals or walks were a treat to watch. The micro movements of the eyes, eyebrows, wrists and fingers, and the movements of the torso and the chest were superb. The delicacy that he brought to his movements put him in a class by himself. Shambhu Maharaj, born in 1910 and died in 1970, was a charismatic and flamboyant character who danced with great power and energy, but who could also bring to a Thumri an exhaustible variety of interpretation which performed with subtlest of movements from the sitting position. He enjoyed a glittering stage career, and in 1952 was invited to join the Bharatiya Kala Kendra in Delhi, where he became head of the department of Kathak. Arguably the most important function of a description such as this is to encourage readers to attend a performance and see for themselves Kathak elegant swirling movements, lightning quick pirouettes, its sudden poses, the rapid stamping of feet and the subtle gestures capable of expressing the fullest possible range of emotions. The word Kathak derives from Katha, a story. A Kathak is therefore one who tells a story, and from ancient times traditional classes and later caste of storytellers specialized in conveying through dance and music tales from great Indian epics and scenes from the lives of the gods. Their role was therefore to teach as well as to entertain with the aid of an extremely rich and highly sophisticated poetic literature in Sanskrit and Braj Bhasha. Durga Prasad ji was in the service of the king, from whom he received a pension to help with the upbringing of his children. Also in the king's service was a great Pakhavaj drummer called Koddu Singh, who was jealous since his family did not share his privilege. When Koddu Singh made his complaint known to Wajid Ali Shah, it was decided that the matter should be settled by a contest between the dancer and the Pakhavaji. If the latter were to win, he would, as requested, receive the dancer's pension. If not, he would forfeit his hands. Durga Prasad ji became worried since he was getting old, and he feared that his failure to win the contest would ultimately bring about the end of his family tradition. In this point, Durga Prasad Ji's gifted 7-year-old son, Bindadin Maharaj, stepped in to beg his father to allow him to compete instead, saying, "Since all this is happening because of me, it should be therefore me who dances in the contest." Durga Prasad ji finally agreed, and in preparation to the contest, Bindadin immediately embarked on the rigorous practice of rhythmic footwork to the exclusion of all else. A month later, everyone gathered in the court in an atmosphere of tremendous excitement. The young Bindadin began dancing in quick tempo, and Koddu Singh accompanied him accordingly. Neck and neck, they danced and played for 12 hours. Neither had gained the upper hand. The king had become restless and hungry, but the court insisted that he not leave his throne even for a second. Bindadin suddenly doubled his tempo and continued relentlessly for a further 4 hours. He ultimately danced so quickly that his feet became a blur to the eye. Exhausted and confused, the Pakhawaji lost track of the rhythm for a split second and committed an error. Bindadin had won. The line of Durga Prasad ji had been saved. The king summoned Durga Prasad ji and asked him to name his reward. Durga Prasad ji merely said, "I want nothing but that you spare the hands of Koddu Singh." His wish was granted, but the embarrassed Pakhawaji disappeared from public view for quite some time thereafter, remaining in isolation and refusing all food until he nearly starved. Such was the fierce pride of a musician in those days. Wajid Ali Shah was holding court to a gathering of poets. One common diversion was for the king to suggest a particular scenario to which the poets would supply the reason it had come about. On this occasion, Wajid Ali Shah's tale was of a young woman who was found the day after her wedding to have the palm of her hand severely burnt. One poet suggested that in experience she had burnt her hand while preparing a light meal for her husband. Another said that she had burnt herself while lighting an oil lamp. All the other suggestions focused on woman's practical inexperience in some way or the other. The young Bindadin Maharaj was then called upon for his interpretation, and he began to improvise a verse and to dance to it. The young woman is sitting expectantly on her bed, awaiting her husband. She is prepared for the night of love, and yet she is experiencing the mixed emotions of joy, fear and curiosity. At one and the same time, her body experiencing both desire and shame. Her husband arrives. He begins to undress her, and out of a sense of modesty, she quickly extinguishes the oil lamp by pressing her palm over the flame. The story goes that Bindadin was rewarded handsomely for his performance with precious jewels from an often excessively extravagant Wajid Ali, who himself an accomplished dancer. Indeed, it is said that the king's toes twitched rhythmically in his sleep, and that as a boy he would tap his feet incessantly. He was apparently partly deaf in one ear because of his exasperated Urdu tutor once slapped him for tapping the feet. Wajid Ali choreographed many dance productions inside and outside the court and strongly promoted the Thumri vocal form, which, when incorporated into Kathak dance, called for elaborate interpretations of the poetic content in order to highlight multifarious meanings that could at one and the same time be spiritual and erotic. In this way, the abhinay or expressive element in Kathak was encouraged and developed. And the acknowledged master of the Thumri in dance was Bindadin Maharaj. Birju Maharaj, born in 1937, the son of Achan Maharaj, studied with his father until his death in 1947. Thereafter, Birju Maharaj continued his training with his uncles, and not surprisingly, he draws together in his own dance style the strengths of each. From his father, he claims to have inherited the suppleness of the torso and chest, the play of the neck, head and face, the precision of the footwork, and the fullness of movement. From Lachu Maharaj, he learned the stylized charls of the Gath and the fluidity of movement. From Shambhu Maharaj, he adopted the power of movement and the force needed to dance Paran. In his own words, Birju Maharaj has likened Lachu Maharaj and Shambhu Maharaj to the moon and the sun, and Achan Maharaj the sky. Combined, they form his universe. Modern Kathak has become an extremely popular art form, and a great many young dancers from India and beyond have been drawn to it, both for its purely aesthetic qualities as well as for its ability to combine abstract rhythmic elements and the expressive and narrative aspects of the movement, that is the Nritta and the Nritya. A typical Lukhnow performance of Kathak unfolds gradually through several stages, each stage establishing a tempo, a dynamic quicker and more intense than the last. The slow introductory invocations to the gods, Vandana, Pranam, are followed by several sections of abstract pieces, Thad, Amad, and in much faster tempo, Tukra, Toda, and Paran, that emphasize technique and variety of movement. In medium tempo come more expressive pieces that rely on the art of suggestion, Gat Nikas, where the dancer hints at a series of animal or human characters using charls and poses. Gat Bhav, that is storytelling, Thumri, Dadra or Ghazal, where the dancer brings to life a song in that style, and Tarana, a recent choreographic genre in which both technical and expressive aspects of dance are emphasized. Technical virtuosity in the form of footwork is usually reserved for the very fastest tempo, and the dancers often enter into playful rhythmic competition with their tabla accompanied in the form of a duet, jugalbandi, where one imitates the other, trying constantly to outguess one's opponent. The ultimate aim of the dancer is to develop creative improvisations with the accompanist, thereby directing the flow of energy so that it uplifts and involves the spellbound audience before passing back to the performers in the form of warm appreciation. To the untrained ear or eye, footwork is often an exhilarating but nonetheless bewildering experience. Like the story of Bindadin Maharaj and the Pakhwaji, a veritable blur to the eye. Yet, footwork is not simply a succession of flat steps on the ground. Rather, it comprises at least a dozen steps for each foot, that is combination with the gungrus or ankle bells, and produce quite different sounds. For instance, a flat step suggests syllables ta, dig, di, etc. A flat step pushed from back to front, te. The heel pushed from back to front, tat. Heel down, ki, gi. Striking with the outer portion of the foot, gi. Toe striking to the ground and behind, na. Synchronous combination of ta with left foot and tat with the right, kran, and so on. All are present in the following, or a jati that I would just, it is a Tishra Jati Paramelu Paran, though some of the steps change depending on their positions in the rhythmic phrase or as a result of the addition of the upper body movement. Tat 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 trigda dhan dhan, jing kita jing kita, to taranga takka tunga taka, diga digi thai diga digi, thai digda dig dig thai digda dig dig thai. The description
and designation paramelu indicates that a variety of sounds, some imitating nature, are being used. For example, jing jing depicts the jingle of the ankle bells. Tadang is the rumble of thunder. Tikda tik tik thai is the strut of the peacock. Other designations signify different qualities. For instance, Natwari always includes the step Kran and is its composition linked to the god Krishna. In Kathak, each syllable is designated not merely to represent the sounds of the feet and the bells, but also to be in harmony with the strokes of the accompanying percussion instruments. During a performance, pieces of abstract dance may be recited before their execution, padant, and the dancer may employ variation in intonation in order to sketch out in sound the appropriate contours of the movement she will use. This padant or recitation is also a medium of communication with the percussionist, who must match stroke for the syllable what the dancer recites. Furthermore, the padant enables the audience to visualize and appreciate the rhythmic patterns before they are revealed in dance movements. Different gharanas or schools of dance not only demonstrate general technical differences but significant stylistic preferences. For instance, the rival Jaipur style is said to emphasize the abstract rhythmic element of dance far more than its expressive content, and to such ends places footwork prominently at the beginning of the performance. Nevertheless, so powerful has the influence of the Lukhnow been, and in particular the artistic dominance of Birju Maharaj and his family, that nowadays there is a great deal more homogeneity in Indian Kathak dance style than in the former days. The Kathak Kendra in New Delhi, where Birju Maharaj was teaching, is a perennial hive of activity from which many of the new generation of dancers have emerged for the past few decades. Guru Munna Lal Shukla, close relative of Birju Maharaj, also teaches at the Kathak Kendra. He has for some years been the subject of important new research into the Lucknow school of Kathak by his Canadian student Dipti Gupta. Besides dancers of the Lucknow tradition, the Kathak Kendra's policy has been to employ dancers of the Jaipur traditions also. Of course, although Lucknow has its own Kathak Kendra, where excellent dancers such as Kapil Raj and Ram Mohan have taught in recent years, and a program in dance at the fabulous Bhatkhande Music College under the Professor Purnima Pandey, Kathak has become popular throughout India and abroad. Although it is not possible to mention all the talented dancers of the modern era, some of the most notable are Sitara Devi, Rohini Bhate, Kumudini Lakhya, Uma Sharma, Rani Karna, Reena Singha, Chitresh Das, Joanna Das, Vaiji Shankar, Shashwati Sen, Aditi Mangaldas, Veronique Azan, a Delhi-based French dancer who also studied under Birju Maharaj. Other students have been taken Kathak far beyond India's borders. For instance, is taught at the Peking Operan and in many schools in Europe and North America.
As with any living tradition, Kathak has always continued to evolve. Amad and Paramelu were not always part of the dance tradition, particularly in the pre-Muslim era, and the temple and the village squares have given way to the court and theatre and different styles of dance presentation. Soloists still dominate in the genre as always, but increasingly common are elaborately choreographed productions involving Kathak dance groups. For instance, Krishnayan and Katha Raghunath Ki, presented in Delhi in 1978 by Birju Maharaj. Perhaps most important of all, the themes on which dance items are based have evolved with times, especially during 70s and 80s. This includes abstract ideas as well as topical issues such as different rhythms in nature and social life. Tala Mika choreographed by Biju Maharaj in 88, Life and Death, Udgar, choreographed by Rohini Bhatte in 87, and Physical and Mental Handicap, Setu, choreographed by Kumudini Lakhya in 87. Other than this, today, the present, when you see productions of Aditi Mangaldas and the recently concluded 3 days festival of 50 years of Kumudini Lakhya's celebration, more than 100 students dance, and it was Lukhnow Gharana at its peak. So much has evolved in this Gharana. To finally conclude to all of you, the Kathak dancer is a storyteller, not a mime. He describes the strut of the peacock, but neither mimics nor becomes the peacock. He reproduces the essence of movement of character or animal, yet he neither mimics nor becomes that character or animal. He takes from each being or situation that which characterizes or symbolizes it and puts that into dance. Throughout, it is the dancer's intention to suggest rather than to make explicit, and there is always room for active participation of the imagination of the audience. The Kathak dance tradition of Lucknow is undoubtedly one of India's finest cultural achievements, with so many outstanding exponents nationally and internationally. We pray it will continue to tell its stories for generations to come. Right? Yeah. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.